Hi, my name is Magnus Lindqvist. I'm a trend spotter and futurologist from Sweden, and I want to talk to you today about the slightly frightening new world of work emerging in the midst of the PCW, the post-corona world. I would like to start with a study by the Nobel Prize-winning economist, Professor William Nordhaus. Professor Nordhaus has a really clever question outlining both the power of innovation and the productivity effects it has on the economy overall. He poses the following question: how long do you need to work to earn 1 hour of reading light? And in his studies, he found that if you go back 200 years, the average worker would spend 6 hours to earn an hour of candlelight. Now, thanks to the ingenuity of human beings, inventions, innovations, changes, disruption, we were able to move from 6 hours in the candle world to 15 minutes in the world of kerosene lamps. I think it was probably unfathomable to think in the 1880s that we would need even less time to get an hour of light, but less than a century later, we were down to about 8 seconds. Today, we're down to about half a second, which is probably the reason you have some time left to look at this talk. You are not really worrying about where your next hour of candlelight is going to come from. What Professor Nordhaus shows in this famous diagram is, of course, that the ultimate impact of innovation is liberation. When we enable the many people to get more from less, we've accomplished that cliche, a better world, a measurably better world. So what does this have to do with what we're going through right now? Well, to do that, let's think about what it was like to be a woman in the early 1900s. Well, let's just take one of the myriad of tasks a so-called housewife would have to do: washing clothes. To wash clothes over a century ago, you would first have to get water, usually from some kind of well, depending on where you were in the world, sometimes even from a river, a stream, or a lake. Then you would have to heat that water over either a stove or an open fire. You would usually have to treat each stain, of which there were many. It was a much dirtier world of work back then. You'd have to treat each stain with a different product. Then you would have to put all the clothes in the wash tub with the now heated water. You would have to scrub them, rinse, scrub, rinse, get new water. And ultimately, you would have to wring all the water out, usually add starch to things like shirts, and put it out to dry. Easily a day's worth of work. Then, in the 1950s, came the revolutionary washing machine. In this case, it was the first Bosch washing machine launched in the late 1950s. Its effect on the world of work for women was extraordinary. If you look at this diagram of female labor participation rate, you can see that right around the year 1960, there's an inflection point where you go from relatively few women working to more and more. And as you can see in many countries, Canada is one of them, Sweden is another, the female labor participation rate is higher than that of men. Let's take another example of this, more of our current times. As a trend spotter and futurologist, I've found one way of making a living, which is giving keynote talks. Let me put you in my shoes, or in any conference delegates over the past decade. I would usually wake up very early in the morning, pack for 2 days of travel, shower, get dressed. I would get to the airport. I would suffer through the nightmare that is the modern airport experience, whether it's Starbucks lines or security lines, or, well, just think many, many lines all over the airport. I would then sit on the airplane, taxiing out, lifting. I have a slight fear, or at least anxiety, of flying, so it was not a very pleasurable experience. You would land at an airport, you would transfer, you would register at the venue, would wait for the conference to begin, then you would listen to, dare I say, sometimes suffer through many hours of speakers, not all of them good. And once you were done with your speaking engagement, or if you were just there as a participant, you would play this whole cycle backwards. Deregister, get out of venue, transfer to airport, lines, sit on airplane, get back home, unpack, undress, go to bed. These days, I am able to not just ignore the shower, my time to productivity on a good day is down to like 15 minutes. No shower, I can get up, I can switch on any of the virtual meeting platforms and get busy talking, sharing ideas. No, we haven't really found a good way to charge money for this. Maybe there isn't a good way. I mean, somebody once said that information, after all, wants to be free. I was not drawn to my profession because of the money I made from it. I was drawn to it from a love of telling stories, sharing examples, inspiring, bringing amusement and enlightenment. So we now see that what women workers went through with washing clothes, everyone is now going through when it comes to conferences, carbon-intensive commutes, getting to the office. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is no place for an office or a conference going forward. It just means that a magic touch office and a magic touch conference is very different from an economically productive office or an economically productive conference. So where does that leave us? We are being liberated, and that sounds good, but it doesn't necessarily feel good. I have lost an income stream. For a while I felt I'd lost my livelihood and all that I'd worked for. It was frightening, anxiety-inducing, awful, horrible. I would wake up in sweats, heavy breathing. But I ultimately realized that freedom is a frightening thing when you've been tied down to hours and hours of commuting and getting to and from conference venues. And your first instinct with freedom, once it's, stop being very scary, is that you want to kill the freedom by binge watching Tiger King on Netflix. If you look at this diagram again, why is self-reported anxiety and depression figures so high these days, especially among the young? Well, if you go back to the year 1800, 6 hours of hard work, you probably felt it was a good day. You were sweaty, you had toiled, you had moved, you had lifted heavy things. Today you have 5 hours, 59 minutes, 59 and a half seconds, where you're just condemned to freedom, whether it be reading and thinking or dreaming or just pondering and getting locked inside your head. We all do it. It's frightening. And there's this corrosive effect on your well-being from doing that. So my question to you is, if we have now gained all of this freedom in the PCW, what are you going to do with it? And the question I always ask myself, and I always ask my audiences, and I always ask fellow human beings, is this: do you want to compete or do you want to create? Two very different paths in life. If you apply it to the world of lighting, you can see that once upon a time it was just a competitive candle world. Who's got the finest candle education? Who can send their children to the best candle making school? Who's got the best, thickest, most efficient, most expensive, most premium inducing candles? It was a competitive economy, but somebody in there said, hold on, we're not doing this the right way. We can do it differently, better. And that's called creation. And then, of course, we got a new world of kerosene. The old world of candles was now called seduction tools, and you went from daily reading light revenue to a Friday night per year as your market, not very profitable. And now the world is kerosene, and many people competed in the world of kerosene. Best kerosene maker, best know-how, largest, most valuable kerosene company, and so on. And this collapses again. It's a discontinuous world. And in this continuous world, amateurs inherit the earth. The people who are able to leave their legacy thinking, clinging to old values and norms, hoping for the normal to return, are usually the losers, whereas the amateurs who dare to be bad at something, who dare to relearn, redream, rethink, adjust, and get early to the new world. Lighting will change again. I'm thinking about biohacking and the ability to use bioluminescent DNA. We can have fluorescent buildings or fluorescent figures going forward. Work is changing right now. Travel, commute. Do you want to compete, or do you want to be a creator? Is your life going to be that competitive instinct of gold cards and getting to places fast and quick and getting a medal? Or is your world going to be one of creation, curiosity, daring to be an amateur? Let me know what your thoughts are. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.